Hi guys, so we're going to do a couple of things in this clip. The first one is something called a gerundive looking like a gerund. It's also known as the impersonal neuter gerundive of obligation, which kind of explains what it is but also makes it sound super complicated. Basically, a gerundive needs to look like a gerund when you are wanting to express something that involves an intransitive verb. So if you think about gerundives, so far, we've had words like Amanda, needing to be loved. We've had agenda, needing to be done. We might have delendum or something like that, needing to be destroyed. But all of these are transitive verbs. So they're all verbs that can take an object. So therefore, we can describe people as needing to be loved and things as needing to be done and something as needing to be destroyed, because you can love something, you can do something, and you can destroy something. A problem arises when we want to express this necessity, this passive necessity, with a gerundive, with an intransitive verb. So words like I run, I hurry, I walk, things like that. You can't follow those words with an object. So we have to change the way that we express the gerundive. Okay, so this is what happens when you're wanting to express an obligation with an intransitive verb. So we've got the verb here, festino, I hurry. Obviously you can't hurry something in Latin, it's intransitive. So what we do is we get the gerundive and we get the neuter version of the gerundive. So you can see this is neuter because of its ending. And that neuter gerundive becomes the subject of est. Okay, so what this literally says is there is a necessity to hurry. Okay, and then nobis tells us who that necessity is for. So there is a necessity to hurry for us. Now, obviously, we're not going to translate it like that. So we can change the translation to active and also just to make more sense in English. So we must hurry. Now, because of the way this is structured, this then looks like a gerund. It looks like a noun, but it's not. It's actually just a neuter gerundive. Okay, so here's the two examples that John Taylor has on page 73 of the textbook. So we've got our neuter gerundive of the verb to go, and then we've got the dative of the person who needs to do that. So I must go. Literally, there is a necessity of going for me. Because this is impersonal, it doesn't agree with anything else in the sentence, which again is why it looks an awful lot like a gerund rather than a gerundive. It doesn't look very adjectival, obviously. And then this one, we've got the neuter gerundive here. We've got the verb to be here, but this time it's in the future tense. And then you've got your dative of the people that need to do that. So literally, there will be a necessity to sail for the sailors tomorrow. So therefore, the sailors must sail tomorrow. Now, obviously, that then doesn't sound very future tensey, but don't worry about that. You can translate it as the sailors will have to sail tomorrow, but this still makes sense in English, and luckily the word tomorrow tells us that it's definitely happening in the future. Now, things get a little bit more complicated when the verb that you're using is not only intransitive, but it's intransitive because it would usually be followed by a dative. So the example that we've got here is pareo, I obey, and usually when you obey something, you obey it in the dative case. What this means here is in this sentence, because what you're obeying is the laws need to be dative. So we can't have our person that's doing the obeying also in the dative case, because then we'd have two different datives and it wouldn't be clear really, apart from context, what's going on structurally in that sentence. So when you have a verb that takes the dative usually, you keep that object, that indirect object in the dative, and then you put the person that needs to do that thing with a or ab, and then in the ablative case, just so that there's no confusion between the two. So this one, literally, there is a necessity, to obey the laws by you or from you. So literally, so in nice English, you must obey the laws. Okay guys, so on page 74, there's an exercise 3.7. We're going to do some of that together now, and then the rest of it I'd like you to do yourselves, and then reply to the Firefly task that I set you with your answers, and then I'll be able to mark it. Obviously, I'm going to try and work out how to do all these things, and if that doesn't work, then you can always email me your answers. Okay, so number one, domum nunc tibi redendum est. So have a look at this, have a think about it, pause this video now, and then I'll reveal the answer in a second. Okay, so you have your gerundive here, so there is a necessity to return for you, and then obviously various other bits of information in the sentence. So in nicer English, you must return. And then where are you returning? Home now. Okay. Okay guys, number two, have a look at this one. Watch out for the tense. Pause the video and I'll reveal the answer in a second. Okay, so literally we've got there will be a necessity to work for me tomorrow in the garden. So in nice English, I will have to, if you want to emphasize that future tense, work in the garden tomorrow. Again, you could always say I must work in the garden tomorrow, because at least there's that word that tells us that we know it's in the future. Okay, so page 74, exercise 3.7, I'd like you guys now to do numbers 3 to 10 and send them to me on Firefly or via email, whichever works best. Okay, up next we have gerundival attraction. So this is kind of in a way the reverse of what we've just been doing. So this is a gerund trying to look like a gerundive rather than a gerundive trying to look like a gerund. And this happens because a gerund is, well, kind of getting involved with a noun, and therefore it starts to want to change its ending to agree with that noun, which is more that something that a gerundive would do, because obviously it's something that an adjective would do. Okay, so let's take the example that John Taylor gives us on page 77. We start with ars scribendi, so the art of writing. This is a gerund, it's in the genitive case because obviously expressing the art of doing something. Now, this will change if you are told what it is that you're writing. So the example that's added is epistulam. Now, obviously, your letter needs to be accusative because it's being written. It's also a feminine word. So the art of writing a letter. Now, what happens here is the gerund wants to get a bit closer to this noun, wants to be a bit more involved with this noun. So it starts attracting to it, which is why it's called gerundival attraction. Now, remember, because it's the art of doing something, this needs to stay genitive. So both these endings now become genitive. So epistulae instead of epistulam. This will also be genitive, but because it wants to hang out with this noun, it needs to become feminine as well. So it will actually end exactly the same in this case because these two words belong to the same declension. So it will change to ars scribendi epistulae, the art of writing a letter. And it kind of makes sense because this is a sort of little bunched up phrase. They're referring to each other here, so they need to match in case and in gender. An example of gerundival attraction that you've actually seen before is when we use the gerund with ad to express purpose. And what's happening here is in this example is you've got peace, which is accusative and feminine, obviously because it's coming after the ad. And then you've also got seeking as accusative and feminine too, to agree with the word peace. So here it's become a kind of gerundive. And this attraction applies to all the different types of gerunds, the different ways that you can use the gerund. So for example, with causa, so you can see here, these two words are genitive because causa comes with a genitive, but they're also masculine and plural to show these friends here. So for the sake of loving my friends. Okay, you can see those two of attracted, and therefore this word has become a gerundive. Okay, again, we're going to do some of an exercise together, and then the rest is going to be yours to complete and send to me. So this time it's 310 on page 78. The first sentence is Rex nuntium misit ad cives monendos. So here we have a suggestion of purpose, obviously. So just have a look at this one, translate it, pause the video, and then reveal for the answer in a second. Okay, so here we obviously have the attraction of these two words after the ad, but we start with the basics. So the king sent the messenger to warn the citizens. Now you kind of notice that there's not a lot in this translation that suggests that this is gerundi or gerundival or whatever, because it just sounds like a purpose clause because it's part of this expression. There's also no suggestion here that this word is plural or accusative or anything like that, but it just is to match up with cives. Okay, have a look at number 2. Okay, so here's number 2, hic locus idoneus est castris ponendis. So have a look at that, translate it, pause the video, and then reveal the answer in a second. Okay, so far the simple bits are this place is suitable, and then remember idoneus is quite often followed by a gerundive here because it's attracted to the word castries. So this place is suitable for placing a camp. And remember, castra is one of those words that's plural in Latin, but singular in English, which is why we've translated it as camp. Okay, so the rest of 310 is now yours to do and send me. I'm going to be mean because I want you to do loads of work. I also want you to translate the story. If you flip back a couple of pages, on page 75, it's exercise 3.9 and it goes over onto page 76. So I'm expecting from you 2 exercises and a translation by the end of this week, please, guys. Thank you.